I heard people talk about the importance of self-care, but what does that mean and why is it important? Here to share some insights is Dr. Scott Eilers, psychologist at Mercy Family Counseling in Cedar Rapids and author of the book For When Everything is Burning. Thanks for joining us, Dr. Eilers.
Thank you so much for having me.
And tell us, what does self-care really mean and why is it important?
It means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. To me, self-care is the strategies you use to manage yourself and manage your life. And so, when we're growing up, someone else is in charge of those things, right? We have people who tell us when to go to bed and when to eat and what to eat and who we can hang out with and not hang out with and all those things. And well, most of us have that anyway. We're supposed to have that. But at some point, those responsibilities get shifted on to us and we become in charge of our own lives. And there's all kinds of different ways that you can do that. Self-care to me is how you choose to do that. I think why it's important is I think it's the most important thing we'll ever do, because there's only one person who will be with you every second of your life, from the day you're born to your last day here, whenever that is, and that person is you. And so the quality of the relationship that you have with yourself and how well you take care of yourself ultimately probably makes more of a difference in your life than a lot of the really big picture things that we stress about, like career and partner and what house to live in. This is more important, in my opinion, than all of those things.
Absolutely. Do people have time concerns adding in one more thing to their schedule, even if it is for that #1 relationship with yourself?
Absolutely. I would say that is probably the #1 concern that I hear when I emphasize the importance of self-care with people is I don't have time to add things to my life. I am already too busy. I totally get that. I'm a busy person too. Self-care doesn't have to be about doing extra things. I think when we hear self-care, we think about like spa days.
A bubble bath, which can be part of it.
And you can do those things. Those are good things to do. But self-care doesn't have to be extra stuff
Sometimes
you
eating
add.
your vegetables, yeah.
Absolutely. It can just be different ways of doing things. I like to think of it as like a different operating system for your life. A lot of it's just about your inner dialogue too. The way you talk to yourself is part of your self-care. It doesn't take any longer to say, I've had a hard day, this was challenging, and I get why it was challenging, than to say, like, I need to suck it up and get back to work, right? Those take the same amount of time, but one is much more empathic and validating than the other.
Much more kind to yourself. And we mentioned that you're an author. Does your book address self-care?
That is the main topic of my book. So self-care is something that we aren't necessarily taught how to do, right? It's modeled to us, and sometimes the way it's modeled to us is very harsh or ineffective or difficult to sustain. And I think that it's something that we all need to learn how to do if we want to live our best lives, knowing that it's ultimately going to be the most consistent thing in your life.
Absolutely.
Being your relationship with yourself and the way you talk to yourself and the way you interact with yourself.
And reading can be part of self-care as well, too.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Dr. Eilers, thanks so much for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me.
And stay with TV9. We'll be right back.